footballgameplan.com, where football makes sense. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Bring you our 2013 NFL Draft Prospect Rankings video. We're taking a look at the defensive end position. We're going to look at the top prospects, some small school prospects, and some sleepers that you want to keep an eye on. DeMontre Moore out of Texas A&M is my #1 defensive end prospect in this draft. The one thing he has to work on, he has to play with better leverage. He tends to play high, but he's a relentless rusher, long arms, and has the closing acceleration to the quarterback that you want. Reminds me a lot of O.C. Umenyiora, which means he could be in a lot of plays and he can also run himself out of a lot of plays. So if he can play with some consistency down to down, this guy could be a ferocious pass rusher at the next level. Yohan Werner out of Florida State is a guy that has excellent power at the point of attack and is very good against the run, and he has that potential, which means his best football is ahead of him. What he has to work on, he has to develop a secondary move, a combo move off his initial move, because if that one gets stalled, it causes him to get engulfed by blockers. But there's no doubt in this guy's talent. Very strong, like I said before, plays the run very well, and does have that closing speed to the quarterback like DeMontre Moore. So essentially, these two guys are 1 and 2, or 1A and 1B amongst the top defensive ends in this class. And I'm a big fan of Tone Jones out of UCLA, 6'4", 280, a guy that's versatile. He can play the 1, the 3, the 5 technique. You can even line him up as a 7, and he'll do a great job. One thing that he has is power. He can push the pocket. He does have the strength versus the run and has great awareness. He has to turn it on each and every down to be effective. Reminds me a lot of Trevor Pryce, who starred for the Broncos and the Baltimore Ravens. Sam Montgomery out of LSU reminds me a lot of Cameron Jordan that plays for the New Orleans Saints. He's assignment and fundamentally sound and has solid all-around game. One thing that he has to work on, he has to play with better awareness. He plays blind at times, which causes him to get off the snap late, so his ball get off has to improve, but all of that is coachable. I like him as a first-round type of talent. The one underrated aspect about Deion Jordan's game is how great his football awareness is. Not only is this young man a tremendous athlete, you see right there, 6'6", 245, he can line up as an outside linebacker as well, can also drop back in coverage, so he gives you scheme versatility. But this is a guy that trusts what he sees on the football field, which allows him to play downhill and play full speed, which is why he's always involved in a lot of plays. What I like most about Alex Okafor is his first step off the line of scrimmage. Shows tremendous burst and never stops rushing, and that's going to get you involved in a lot of plays, as you see here against Geno Smith. So when you combine his hustle and his athleticism, it makes him an intriguing prospect. And when you look at Barkevious Mingo out of LSU, I'm not as high on him as most people are. I gave him a second-round grade. He has to be able to put it all together. A lot of times he ends up blocked or running himself out of a play. That has to improve if he's going to be a consistent threat at the next level. Ezekiel Ansah out of BYU has the most potential out of anybody in this draft. 6'5", 270. I'm not as sold on him as a top 15 pick as some people are. Just like with Mingo, his best football is ahead of him. He's still learning how to play the position. You put him in an NFL weight room, you put him in an NFL environment where he's going to get better, and you're going to see the best out of Ansah moving forward. And Devin Taylor, I'm a big fan of, 6'7", 270. All of 6'7". I've seen him at the Shrine game, and he was unblockable with those long arms and his athleticism. When he wasn't as big, when he was about 260, 255, this guy was able to drop back in coverage, so you do have some versatility with a guy like Devin Taylor. The first thing that jumps out at you about Malachi Goodman is his tremendous wingspan. This guy reminds me a lot of Sean Jones that played for the Los Angeles Raiders and the Houston Oilers. Does a great job at the point of attack with his strength. I think he could be a very good 5 technique at the next level. Keep an eye on Tank Carradine as this process moves forward. This guy is going to be coming off an ACL injury, but when he was out there 100%, you can make an argument he was Florida State's best defensive lineman. I love the burst off the edge. He's going to be a very solid pro. Keep an eye on Quanterra Smith out of Western Kentucky, Sunbelt football player right there. And you see right here against DJ Fluker was able to put up an outstanding performance, but he was dominant throughout the course of the season up until the ACL injury for Western Kentucky. So this is a guy that may be a bit of a sleeper, but should rise if he checks out medically. And Corey Lemonnier out of Auburn, 6'3", 242, may be an edge rusher in a 3-4 defense at the next level, but what jumps out at you on film right away is his burst off the snap. Now, if he can develop a combo move, he's going to be a dangerous player as a pro. William Golson out of Michigan State was a highly recruited high school athlete, 6'6", 278, and in my opinion may be better suited to be a 5 technique at the next level because he does have strength at the point of attack, doesn't have a lot of pass rushing moves, but has to work on his consistency from down to down. And when I look at Joe Kruger, I look at a guy that's tremendous with his strength. Hand placement is outstanding, does a great job of getting pushed. Not really a pass rusher, but is always in the mix. When you look at a guy that could have a, let's say, a J.J. Watt type of impact, not as talented as J.J. Watt, but a guy that does have the strength of Watt, you look at Joe Kruger being a solid 5 technique again at the next level. And when you look at Michael Buchanan out of Illinois, 6'5", 252, speed and athleticism, has to get stronger in his base in order to stop the run, but you may see another guy that may end up as an edge rusher in the 3-4 defense. David Boss out of Missouri Western State was able to dominate the Division II level. You saw him also have some success throughout the course of the week at the East-West Shrine game. 4th round grade I've given him. Also has the ability to stand up and occupy short zones and coverage, so keep an eye on him as an intriguing prospect for a 3-4 defensive team. And Rufus Johnson out of Tarleton State, another Division II talent, a guy that I gave a 5th round grade to. He has your traditional defensive end like skill set, bursts off the edge, does a great job of setting the edge in the running game. And when you look at Marquise Jackson, 6'4", 253 out of Portland State, you look at a guy that just oozes potential. He's still a bit raw in his pass rushing ability, but a pro coach will be able to get that out of him at the next level. And Mike Catapano out of Princeton, watched him a lot in the Ivy League, did a great job. Maybe a shorter guy, but definitely stout. You may see him slide inside as a 5 technique to get pushed, but definitely has some outside edge rushing ability as well. 6th round grade I've given him. And when you look at William Jefferson out of Stephen F. Austin, you talk about Deion Jordan-like athleticism, 6'6", 245, a guy that's still scratching the surface of his potential. That's why I've given him a 6th round grade. He's going to be a developmental prospect at the next level. Marcus Hunt out of SMU, 6'8", 270, tremendous size. That's what you want as a defensive end, but he also plays too high and he doesn't play consistently game to game, and that has to change at the next level, which is why I've given him a 5th round grade, but the potential is there for him to be dominant. And when you look at a guy like Cornelius Washington, I've combined him and LeVar Edwards out of LSU with the same strengths and weaknesses. Both guys are solid workman-like type of defensive ends that were able to play alongside a lot of stars up front. So you wonder about guys like guys like Washington and guys like LeVar Edwards, how well will they do if a team needs them to be that guy? But both guys were always around the football, making plays, which is why I've given them both 5th round grades. I like Cornelius Washington, and I also like LeVar Edwards out of LSU. Wes Horton out of USC flashes that pass rushing skill set that you want to see from a top level prospect, but he has to be more consistent and he has to do a better job of reading and recognizing plays, especially in the running game, which causes him to get blocked and engulfed at times. Emeka Onyeku out of Louisiana, tremendous athlete, 6'4", 255, played his best football toward the end of the season, especially against the University of Florida, had 2 sacks in that game and was a disruptive force. So there's some upside for an NFL coach to work with Onyeku with his potential and also the fact that he's very coachable. And you want to keep it locked in here to Football Game Plan throughout the course of draft season, as our senior draft analyst Chris James does a great job breaking down the prospects on his radio show every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern time at blogtalkradio.com/footballgameplan. And you can also follow him on Twitter at CJ Florida 9.